Good morning, everyone. My name is Gary Venice, and I'm with ERA Blue Key Properties in Spring City. I'm the principal broker here, and wanted to welcome you to my East Tennessee real estate blog. Today we're going to be talking about the records you should be keeping and for how long. One of the questions we hear at closings, especially from first-time home buyers, is how long do I have to keep these documents? And I came across an article with, as you all know, my favorite thing, a checklist, by Donna DeZuba at houselogic.com, and which, by the way, is a great website, and if you get a chance, you really should go there. There's a lot of good, interesting bits of information there. And she's outlined, based on some criteria, the documents you should keep and for about how long you should keep them. And because it's important to have some of this information. On the other hand, storage can be an issue, so this is a way maybe with this checklist to avoid having boxes and boxes of documentation that you might need. Also, let me say up front the standard disclaimer that we are not offering any kind of legal or tax advice, just some basic good common sense things and approaches in order to retain some documents and for how long. There's really no one size fits all when it comes to document prep, or document retention. So I'm going to give you just sort of an overview. Basically, in general, the IRS says you should retain your tax documents for 3 years. And that seems to be their standard. Now, the caveat to that is that they also say that you probably should keep them for longer than 6 years, maybe 7 or 8, because they can request records for up to 6 years if they suspect that someone failed to report 25% or more of their gross income. And of course, the IRS can generally ask you anything, so 7 years is might be in order. You also need to check with your state. Some states have different requirements. For instance, Ohio, they want you to keep your records, your state income tax records, for 10 years. So there's a wide range of times, and we're gonna nail some of this down as we walk through here. So first is on the home sale. Your HUD-1 and the closing documents you should keep for 3 years. The deed, my advice is, and hers as well, is that you keep that obviously as long as you own the property. Any building warranties or service contracts on the house, as long as they are in force, that's a document you should be keeping. The same thing is true for condo or association fee documentation for the life of the time that you're in the property, and any receipts from a capital investment standpoint. If you remodel or add on or whatever, that's something that you're going to need down the road or when you sell the house, so you want to retain those for as long as you have the property. A 1031 exchange sale for the old and the new property, including the HUD. Now, 1031 exchange is kind of this property for that property with like values, and so what you want to do is you want to retain both closing documentation, including the HUD-1 on both sides, for as long as you own the property, and then 3 years. Okay, which is a good reason to keep everything on that plus 3 years after you sell is always a good thing. Annual tax deductions, property taxes, you want to retain the cancel checks and keep those for 3 years. Year-end mortgage statements, obviously you want to retain those for 3 years, and as with the PMI and any energy tax credits that you take advantage of on the home you own. In terms of insurance and warranties, you want to maintain your insurance information for as long as you are in the properties, and then that plus 3 years, and that's pretty standard, the plus 3 years after you sell or move on. Inventory of the household goods. And this is something I recommend to a lot of the sellers, to do a walkthrough with a video camera, to video record everything, and also to home buyers after they get moved in. The advantage here is if you're selling and you're going to move, of course you have a record of all the things that end up going on the truck. There have been some issues where a truck has left the property and has not shown up at the other end, or has, and some items are claimed to be missing, and then it's what's on the list or what's not on the list, and that video record goes a long way. The same is true once you move in from an insurance standpoint, homeowner's insurance standpoint. That's a DVD you want to just keep and throw maybe in your safety deposit box or in your safe at home. Do a walkthrough after you get moved in and everything's in place, so that if there should be some kind of catastrophic disaster, you've got a record of everything that was in the house, and that is a huge help in terms of settling any claims and frankly getting the maximum benefit out of your insurance policy. Your homeowner's insurance policy, I recommend that you keep, and I would say this is true for the DVD as well, keep a copy certainly at home in a file or in a safe. You might want to also keep a copy off-site, again, in case there is that catastrophic disaster that takes place. If you are a real estate investor and you own rental property, you want to make sure that any documentation, appraisal, or valuation that's used to calculate depreciation, you retain that as long as you have the property plus that 3 years. Again, any capital expenses or improvements that you're making, you need to retain those. Receipts for any repairs or other expenses that go into the home that from a tax standpoint you're going to look at. Your insurance policy, the landlord's insurance policy. Any partnership agreement you have with a partner if it's on a real estate investment. And here again, that's a document I would say, it's fine to keep a copy locally at the house or in a safe, but also keep one of those off-site as well. And then any of the cancel checks or whatever from any of the expenses, and also copies of the checks that you get paid for the rental properties. And finally, to talk about some just miscellaneous records. And again, these are some of these I would say keep on site, and also have copies off site. Certainly a will or any property trust. I would make sure that there's a copy on site, a copy off site, and obviously a will you'll keep, and then as they are updated you'll change them out for as long as the party's alive. If there's any inheritance records or any rules that the state may have for the use of the home, for as long as the heirs own the property, and that plus 3 years. Part of that would be the original purchase documents that took place when the house was bought. If you have a divorce decree that included the sale of a home or a quitclaim deed, you want to keep all that information for the life of the home plus 3 years. And then employment records for any W-2s or W-4s that you're issuing, whether it's for live-in nanny or maid or any kind of exposure of that type, because that's gonna obviously help for tax records. Keeping digital copies of all this stuff is okay. The IRS is going to want them on paper, so be prepared to be able to print off everything that you keep. Of course, it's keeping a digital copy is far and away way more efficient in terms of just space. These individual thumb drives that are on the market now are very inexpensive, and you can keep specific thumb drives for specific information, these USB drives, and store them away in a safe or in a safety deposit box, and that makes good sense, along with the DVDs as well. One of the things I also recommend is that, you know, as this is sort of, we do this here at the business on a basis of every January, when we're pulling the year-end stuff together, that's a good time to purge those 4, 5, 6-year-old records that you don't need to keep, that may be laying around, or scan them, get an electronic copy, and then just file them someplace. And the idea here is to be as efficient as you can. What we've talked about today is like the basic sets of documents. You know, there are home warranties and a lot of other things that you want to keep for the life of the house as well, and manuals on the appliances and the systems in the house, and any as we said, modifications, for instance, if you put new windows or whatever, that new window data. Of course, you don't need the old window data, so that's an object that can be, or a document that can be purged. We hope you got something out of this as far as record keeping. We appreciate you coming to the blog. There's a lot of good information here. We hope you'll avail yourself of that, and we'll be continuing on with the series in the next couple of days, and I look to talk with you or see you soon. Thanks very much.